This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
I'm Brent Jackson.
So Brent, how was your Father's Day?
Very relaxing. We did a tennis tournament, went to brunch, came home and watched Father the Bride.
Nice, okay. It's very fatherly.
How about you?
Let's see, what did we do? I played tennis in the morning by myself with my ball machine very early. That was like what I really wanted to do. And then we went on a nice walk with our 8-year-old. And then I did an open house. That's what I did.
Was it packed?
No, there was like nobody there. So we'll talk about that.
Yes.
So our guest today is Rob Sanders. Rob is your business partner at TTR Sotheby's International Realty.
He is.
And he was our first guest on the show. And we're now on our 50th episode, if you can believe that.
It is a crazy time right now.
Right.
50
yes.
episodes.
50 episodes. And we wanted to have Rob back. We talked with Rob before about what was the topic?
It was basic real estate, like EMD, security deposits, contingencies, like real estate 101, which is way below his pay grade.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Rob, we need to learn way more about you. And I'm just going to bring you right in. What's going on? How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for inviting me again. I'm glad to be here. Very happy, excited.
So one quick question is, when you walked in here today, by the way, who the hell booked us at 9 a.m. on a Monday? Like, I know it was like a makeup date, but I mean, I feel great, but at first I was like, oh my God, 9 a.m. on a Monday. Why would we?
9 a.m. It's probably me. I was at the gym at 5:30.
Yeah, here we go.
Holiday day. And there was nobody at the gym. Driving here, walking here, there's
Parking
nobody.
here, that is nice.
Yes, you guys have all 3 cars, like 1, 2, 3, right out front.
I'll admit that is nice. So I want to know about your iced tea. You walked in here with this iced tea, and then Brent and Lauren both made a comment about it. So what is up with the iced tea?
It's my only drink. That's all I drink.
It's all you drink? You don't drink water?
I do drink water, but I love my iced tea. And Chick-fil-A iced tea. Hey, shout out to Chick-fil-A. Love it.
Wait, is it sweet tea or unsweet tea?
Unsweet tea, no sugar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never leaves home without it.
I don't. Keeps me going. Yeah.
And he's got it in a Dunkin' Donuts mug.
So it's not from Dunkin' Donuts?
It's not. It's actually Chick-fil-A poured into Dunkin' Donuts because they have a much better cup. Dunkin' Donuts does that. Chick-fil-A has a plastic cup, and this is a much.
You're trying to fool the public by walking around. So it's like, it seems sort of normal with a Dunkin' Donuts cup in the morning.
Trying to keep the line down.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna do our essential intro question just to recap a little bit. So again, you and Brent have your business together, Rob and Brent, and how did you start in real estate? Where are you from? Give us a little origin history here.
So I started in real estate probably about, I think maybe 17 years ago. I had a full-time job, and I ended up moving to Capitol Hill, and then I moved to DuPont Circle, and I ended up jumping into this pool on the roof where I ended up meeting a girl there that worked for TTR Sotheby's, and she invited me to go out one day to go looking at a few open houses with her, and I totally fell in love that day with the open houses and looking at all the property, and I thought, wow, can I do this? Is this a good career for me? And she told me that, hey, look, I'll take you under my wing. You'll go ahead and be like my intern. And I said, all right. And I agreed to it. And here I am, 18 years later.
So what line of work were you in before?
I was in the insurance business.
Like insurance sales, like all kinds of different auto insurance.
I did a lot of claims. Like I would be out and about handling claims. And I decided to keep that job as well because I wanted to get my feet wet in real estate, and I still had to pay my bills. So I began working 2 jobs, and that went on for almost 20 years.
So when you first started, what were your first deals like? What was it like trying to get customers and clients? How did you start in that?
So my first deal was a rental, And I ended up parlaying that rental. It's funny, years later it was an $800 rental in Anacostia. And I remember opening the door with the client, and he told me, that's my budget. That's all I can afford. I want to live right there. And when we opened up the door, it was my first, ever doing a lockbox. And I opened up the front door and there was no floor.
What?
So,
Wow.
yeah. So I turned to him and I go, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah." Great guy, very earthy,
I guess
very,
it'd have to be. There's no floor. So.
there was no floor. The floor was going to be put in, but literally when you opened it there was no floor. It just dropped. Um, Luckily we did not take that apartment. We ended up moving to another one. We had to increase our budget from 800 to 1200, and then
So which neighborhood did he stay in? Anacostia? Or
I
you
moved him actually to Columbia Heights. It was a little bit better as far as like the dollar amount for him, a little bit closer too. So, and in the end, I went from getting my first condo too. I moved from DuPont back over to Logan. TTR had a brand new building called Sola Piazza. Shout out to Giorgio. And I moved into that one. And from there, I got my first deal with one of the guys that were moving out of the complex. So then I started farming that building, and that's how it all began.
Okay.
So following up on that, you're working 2 jobs. Can you tell us about the market then, and your next couple of deals, and your partnership with the agent you were working with, and like how everything grew from there?
So it was 2003, and the market was kind of, for me, I was brand new, so I didn't know really how the market actually was. I only went by the agent, which is Jennifer Hammond at the time. She was very experienced agent, and she taught me that we would begin with the contract. And she's like, "Don't worry about getting people. Don't worry about getting deals. I want you to memorize that contract, work and study that contract. And if I ever had questions, I would go to her and she would go read the contract." So it was a great way, for me to learn. And even when I would ask her about appraisals and stuff like that, she would go, "What does the contract say?" So that was very, I guess tough love to have me learn that contract. But at the time, the market, I thought was, to me, I thought it was mediocre because I didn't know what was going on with the market. And then we got into 2004 and 2005, and then the market exploded. And then I remember being at the office and watching fax machines come in, fax contracts coming in. There was like 10 of them at a time, and we would all wait there at the fax machine to pull our offer off the table. And then I'd look at all the other agents in there, and I thought for sure they were looking at my offer. So I'd quickly grab mine and leave. But that's how bad it was back then. So it was really busy in that time frame.
I can even imagine, because I got in right after the fax machine era, maybe like right around that time. But to your point, you're standing at a fax machine with 6 other agents. The offers are coming in or whatnot. So it's like you can sit there and look at somebody else's offer and say, "Oh, call the client back and see if you can bump it up a few dollars or remove a few contingencies."
You could. I mean, and what was scary is that TTR, we had in the middle of the room, we had that main fax machine, and we would leave the conference room and we'd hear it go off, and we would run back there. And then if I saw another agent, which will remain nameless, I would run by him and I would go and grab mine because I was worried. Or, I would wait till theirs came over and I would accidentally be at the Xerox machine copying, and I would glance over. I was like, "Oh, I only need 10,000 more, no problem."
I remember getting chastised by Jonathan Taylor, or like I wouldn't say chastised, but along those terms, by either Jonathan or our assistant at the time. Back in that era, I left a contract on a copier, and they said there was one agent in particular. They said you have to be really careful leaving stuff around because if he sees it, we've got a problem. Because he will literally like overcut you, just because he saw something.
Wow.
Right.
It was intense.
That's how it was. Yep, for sure.
So, okay. So what about the forming of the Rob and Brent group? How did that happen? When, and how?
So then it was probably Jennifer and I were together for about 2 years, and then at that point we agreed to go our separate ways. And I think I was on my own for about maybe 5 months of that time. I was working the one building, and I started getting a good following in that building. And then I ended up being introduced by, I think, Michael Rankin to Brent. And Brent was in the office with another agent. And that agent I found out was moving to California, and Brent was going to be on his own. And then Rankin said, "Hey, look, I think it would be great if you two, met each other. I think you two would be perfect together. You're completely opposite. Boom, boom, boom." And here we are today.
So Michael Rankin, the owner of the company, introduced you guys and sort of got that started.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I ended up meeting Brent. I'd met him a couple times in the office, but I remember why I really wanted to work with Brent is because I had a deal, and I remember it was I think 2301 N or the Emerson.
The Emerson House.
Emerson House, and I had a deal there, and I had just gotten it. And I asked Brent if he wanted to go in on it with me 50-50, and Brent goes, "No, I'll go in on it with you, but you're paid 100% because I haven't earned it." And I go, "Oh, this is the agent I want to work with."
Yeah. Integrity.
True story.
Integrity.
Yeah.
The other thing, so Michael Rankin introduced us, but I think that our actual first conversation of substance was at a party. I think it was a holiday party or New Year's party with, I think it was at Jeff Lockard's apartment. He's still with the firm, great agent. We had a conversation there. I think that was probably when we had the conversation about 2301 N Street, the Emerson House.
That's correct. Yep. Jeff Lockard had a party, and we had a bunch of agents came over there, and that was an old building. I think he was at Vizio or something.
Vizio,
Yeah.
So how many agents, remind us all, how many agents on your team now that you've grown it?
So now I think we have a total of 10, right? Total? I mean, we have
10
admin and all that. We have about
10 people?
10 people in the group. Yeah.
Mhm. Right on.
11 to be exact.
11. Okay.
All right.
And actually, last night we just got a text from one of our newer agents, and Brent and I were, talking back and forth about how great the team is right now. That we have a really good, talented team, which is exciting to have. From all of our admin to the agents that are doing really well. They're doing, one's already done 8 million, and another one's done, 11 million. All two new agents for the year. So it's
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
So on the team subject, you've been recently mentoring these new agents who have joined your team. One of the newer agents on your team, Leslie Backoff-Snyder, she was a 2-time guest on our show already. So we met with her early on when we started the podcast to talk about what it's like to get started in this business, coming from another industry, and then checking in on her 1 year later. So tell us about some of the things that you do to mentor new agents and help them get started.
So that was a brand new program for us, was actually having a mentorship. We've never had one before, and it was good that I was able to parlay my ideas with Leslie. We were a really good fit. She's got a lot of ideas that are kind of refreshing because she's new, and I've been in the business now 18, 19 years. It was a great mix of we would compare our ideas with each other. What I did with her was I took her with me pretty much during the day, and we would hang out and go from like place to place. We would go look at new properties. We would meet a lot of my favorite agents. We'd get the calls from the other agents. A lot of our competition would call us, our Washington Fine people, our Compass agents. We would go and look at the properties and get to meet them. And then in turn, we would talk about, how the deal would be structured if we were writing on it. And then as she got an offer together, we would go over it, page by page to where she knew the contract really well. When she would ask me questions, I would go read the contract. So it was good. It was what I was taught 18 years ago. So I was parlaying that to her, and
Right.
she's finished a complete 12 months now. Our mentorship ended in June, and she's done really well, actually. I just got a wonderful thank you card from her in the mail, which I thought was class. So hopefully she picked that up from me.
Maybe you need a gift card to Chick-fil-A too.
Yes,
That would
anything.
be...
Everyone loves Chick-fil-A. There isn't one person who doesn't. So yeah, that would probably be good.
So can you walk us through just a typical day with the mentee? So like time you get into the office to all the way through until whether it's corresponding via text, phone call, email, but from the time you get up to the time you go to bed.
So probably we both arrive. We're a little more late starters, her and I. We, like Brent would be in at 5 a.m. We come in right around 9:30, 10 o'clock. But we would go till a lot later. We would get there probably about 9:30. We would begin our Starbucks run in the morning, and then we would come over and we would pull up on Bright, and I usually had an itinerary of what I wanted to look at that day, and she would add what she wanted to look at that day. We could go from all the way up to, Embassy Row, all the way down to the Navy Yard. And we would look at a few properties that were on. We would talk about the newer buildings. I took her down to, for example, 525 Water, wanted her to look at that building. And then would take her to an old building on Connecticut Avenue. We would do that up until about maybe 2. At 2, we would probably have lunch at that point. And then after lunch, we would take whatever emails and calls that we needed to. And the whole time responding to people that would be calling into me. And then I would explain to her what's going on. Why are they bothering me? What are they doing? Et cetera, et cetera. And we would follow up with like our admin if we needed to have a few, signs run or places cleaned, or talk about what would you offer on that property. That was a lot of things that we would do. Is when we would come back from the properties, I would tell her, now, how much do you think it's worth? It's kind of like that show, where what is Flip or Flop, or or Love It or Leave It, or whatever, where he doesn't tell them, how much do you think it is? So I would tell her, I would print a few things, and she would go, oh, I think it's like $4.99. And, we would play off each other. But then when we would end up having a deal on the table, we would spend the afternoon going over it. Like, we would not go back out. We would go over the contract, go over the offers, go over the pre-approvals, calling the bank, talking to the other lenders. It depended if we were the listing agent or the buy side. So
that's awesome. That's like very involved, and that's legit mentorship right there. That's the best stuff.
Yeah, it was we've never had a mentorship, so to me, I wanted to go all out for her, and I think she's done a really good job, and we're really proud of her. So
The other thing to compliment Rob on is, like, he eats, breathes, and sleeps real estate. So from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed, he's constantly living and breathing the MLS. So whether it's myself or anybody else on the team, the mentee, he's pushing out like, this is a great new listing. It just came on. Let's go take a look at it. So it's refreshing to have someone like, for 18 years in the business, he still has a passion for it. And I think that passion parlays over to the mentees. So Rob, kudos to you for like your passion on the real estate, because I also think that bleeds over to other agents, not even on our team, but within the firm here at Sotheby's and Compass, WFP. I mean, you're sought after. Another thing that you've been, whether you like it or not, like one thing you've been deemed in the industry is like the condo king. Like, everybody knows you as like the condo king, because whether you've lived in almost every building or a lot of buildings here in the city, but you know every single building. You can spit out like an address or a unit number, and he knows the entire tier, frontwards and backwards. You want to kind of tell us about that?
Yeah, that generated back from, that was one thing that that really stood out from Jennifer. Jennifer in the very beginning told me in 2002, she's like, you don't know anything about real estate. You don't know the buildings. And I used to sit back and watch her when we'd pull up the original MRIS, and there would be all these addresses down on a screen, and it would be like, 1001 L Street. And I was like, how do you know what's a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood, et cetera? So to recap here, when Jennifer and I would get together, she would put me in front of the computer, and I would look at all these addresses, and I'm like, how do you know which condos you want to look at, or where we should be going for the day? And she was like, because I know the addresses, and I know the locations, and I know the condos. And she's like, I want you to go out there. And she's like, I want you to take like maybe 5 buildings, go to them, walk them, go to the front desk, meet the people, find out about the buildings. I thought that was great information, because we ended up starting out at the Apolline, 1330 New Hampshire. And then I was able to start, I met everybody, met all the managers, and then I would add 4 more buildings that day. Before, I was at every building possible. And then I would tell my agents too, like, it was funny, 2 days ago, I got a phone call. I'm driving down the road. We had finished a big TTR meeting. I got into the car, and I hear this lady. She calls me, hey, I'm talking about you were referred to me from a friend. And she goes, I'm at 2125. And I cut her right off. I go, 2125 14th, Union Row. She goes, how do you know? I go, I know all the buildings, ma'am. Like, and she was like, oh my God, you do? Like, and she goes, you were a referral. And I was like, oh, okay, you were referred by another client of ours. So what's good about being able to know all that, I always say, is credibility, right? Like, if you take a phone call from an unknown person you've never met, and they start talking about their building, and then you're able to rattle off the address, they're like, whoa, and you're in the car, that shows that you really know what you're talking about, or you know the building. A lot of agents will go, oh, I know the building. They can't even recite the address. I can tell you exactly where it is, what, boom, 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 what the amenities they have. And I think, again, that's years of, being in the business and learning. So
For sure. So that's all like key experience stuff, especially in an urban environment, is knowing those buildings, knowing the general investor ratio, knowing the rental rules, knowing the pet rules, all that kind of stuff before you even open your mouth, because someone's going to ask those questions. So might as well just know it.
correct.
Right.
Very true. Yesterday we put on a new listing, and right away they called up. I put in there are no animals, no pets, but of course the agents always want to call. It's a perfect unit. They're like, "Are there no animals?" And I go, "There are no animals, but there is an exception." Like, so they're like, "Okay, what's the exception?" And I go, "Well, service dogs, and you probably could beg the board if you wanted to have a cat."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, okay." So I go, if there's a will, there's a way, for sure.
So you also bought and sold a lot of real estate during your real estate career.
Correct.
So I don't know what my direct question is about this, but I'm always fascinated by like, how do those choices get made? Do you like, assuming a lot of condos because you spend a lot of time with these buildings, how do you make that decision? You're like, I'm going to buy in here too. I love this place. Like, or I think this would be a good investment, or I just want this unit. Like, tell us about some thought process on some of the places you live. Give us some examples.
So a lot of times, I have been out and about looking at units. Like if Brent and I have nothing going on that day, I'll go out there and look at newer buildings. Like right now, there's like 5 new buildings, a few in the Navy Yard that I wanted to check out. But if I go in there and it's like a journey for me. When I come into the lobby, if I open up the door and the lobby is beautiful, it looks good, front desk guy, concierge greets me, hello, how are you? Then I ask about amenities, I look around. And then when I do a tour of the unit, if I come in there and I always go like this, no matter who I'm with, I go, I could live here.
Right.
And they kind of laugh like, all right. Or if we go to other buildings and people might go, oh, it's a great unit. I'll walk in. I could never live here. It's just that feeling that
Yeah,
like,
sure.
my first unit ever was at Sola Piazza, and I walked in there. It was a ground floor unit, 1300 13th Street. Love that address. Love the developer, Giorgio is great. And I came in there, and I thought, do I want a ground floor? Do I want a ground floor? Little story behind that was the original apartment that was given to me was 104, and that was on the ground floor by the car wash. Then I found out from Giorgio that there was a unit in the Piazza, 102. So I go, or 103. I go, at the very end, I made a change. And I changed actually with my really good friend and made him take 104 so he could be on the street. And I took 103 where I could be in the Piazza. That was my greatest move. Thank you. Thank you, Giorgio. That was great. But anyway, with that, so that was the feeling.
Your friend's like, why am I facing the car wash?
Well,
the car wash isn't there anymore, but the
car
Well,
wash.
he also likes cars, so I mean,
fair enough.
104 was an
win-win.
actual larger unit. But in the end, it was good to be on the inside of the garden.
Yeah,
that
for
was
sure.
that building's claim to fame is that Piazza. So it was great. And a couple things about the buildings and the condos that I've toured and lived in. It does help me a lot with my clients especially out of town clients, people that are moving here, and they'll recite a building to me. They'll go, "Hey, I heard about what about Quincy Court?" And I will immediately tell them about the address, and I'll go into it, and then they'll go, "How do you know all that?" And I'll go, "Well, 1, years of experience, but 2, I probably have lived in almost every building." And it's funny because Brent and I just ran into a client of ours at Capitol Hill that is moving, and they made a joke because when they were with me, they were, I kept telling them when I took them out one day at an open house, I had met them, and we went out, and I showed them 5 different properties, and all 5 I had either lived in the area or lived in the building, and they jokingly met us, and they go, "Hey, we just want you to know we're moving away from you, Rob, and there's no way that you're going to ever have been where we are." And immediately they said Delaware, and I go, "Oh, I happen to have a place in Delaware." And then immediately we go, "Oh, where do you live?" And they go, "The Peninsula." And I go, "Me too." And the husband goes, "No way." I go, "Yep, you're my neighbor."
It was
So-
crazy. I was there for that, and it was like the wife's mouth dropped, and the husband's like, "Oh my God, we cannot get away from you." It's such a random story.
So I told her I'd be over for dinner at any time, but she goes, "Good luck, because I don't cook." And I go, "Good. We both can go to the club and eat together."
you go.
So it's fun.
So diving a little deeper into that, like in the last year, you've bought and sold 2 places. One, you totally got renovated, and then you just moved into a new place. Like, can you tell us about that and like how that experience parlays over to your clients?
So when the last unit I had was over on U Street, and it was an auction, and I watched it for a good year. I tried 3 different times to buy it from the bank during the auction process. The bank would not allow me to buy it. I don't know why. I guess my offer wasn't enough. Finally, I did hit the reserve, and they allowed me to buy it. I ended up I renovated the whole thing. And I was there for a good 2 years. And then I decided that, I get bored of things. And at that point, one of our other agents told me that he had a unit coming up that was completely redone. I went and toured that one, and I fell in love with it immediately. As soon as I opened the door, I knew it was the perfect unit for me. And I went ahead and put mine on the market, and it sold. But with that being said, I kind of talked to people that are looking at maybe units that are not as renovated, and then we begin to talk about what it would take to renovate. Like right now, I showed one again at the Apolline, 1330 New Hampshire, a 1-bedroom, all original. That building dates back to 1964. It had, the parquet floors, the yellow bathroom. I was able to print my original renovation cost to show them what it took for my bathroom, what it took for my kitchen, what it took for my floors. That way they're able to look at it in dollars and cents, and they're like, wow, okay, well, it's not that bad. I go, we can renovate, and we don't have to go a huge blowout. If if you have a certain dollar amount, we will do that this year, following year, et cetera. So it's very helpful for my clients.
Yeah, I think speaking with experience, when you were able to parlay that information, you just did the renovation, and with your experience in a lot of the buildings throughout the city, you also have the contacts within the building of like how to maneuver, certain, pieces of paper around in the back office at the management company or whatnot.
Very true. Yeah, it does help. And especially people that have never done a renovation before, and you go in there and tell them, look, I just went through it. Let me tell you exactly what you have to do, what they're going to do. Like when we get into a building, let's say on Church Street, and you find out that the original 2004 bamboo is urethaned to the concrete. So you begin to explain to them it's going to take 3 days of jackhammering to get the floor out of there. Once it's done, we're ready to lay the new 7-inch tongue and groove plank floor.
I think even it speaks to your experience in the industry, like knowing that a building built in 2004 has bamboo and it was urethane to the floor. I mean, it's most agents aren't going to know that. 99% of us aren't going to know that information.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm listing a condo at 2328 Champlain Street, a building we all know very well. I've had a few listings there. The floors in there, the original floors are horrible bamboo, like the worst. Yeah. And this unit actually, kind of a freak thing. Someone lit a couch on fire, like a vandal lit a couch on fire in the hallway of the building. And it set off some of the sprinkler systems, not in this unit, but in the hallway. And so there was some damage. And I was like, I told the owners, I said, oh, perfect. I said, we can get these damn bamboo floors out of here before you sell it. And they were like, well, what's wrong with the... I'm like, just trust me, please. Like, this garbage. And so, yeah, we're going to have beautiful new floors in there. But, and I'm sorry, side story, but just condo stuff,
So, next question. It's not on the question sheet here, but like, I think one of your biggest attributes is your passion and knowledge in the industry and your willingness to help anybody, right? Whether it's a Compass agent, a WFP agent, along with foster agent, people will call you because you'll give them an hour of your time, whether it's a $50,000 parking spot or a $5 million house in McLean. Like, people will call you for your knowledge base. I mean, can you kind of walk us through, how and why? Like, a lot of us are going to put that on our NDL, right? Not doing list, because like they're just time wasters. But I swear, like, you will give as much time to whoever, whether it's a brand new agent or an agent that's been doing this for 20 years. I mean, it's impressive.
Thank you. It's funny that you mentioned that, because on Friday I involved, Mattia and Leslie both on the team, and I told them that we're going to be going out today to look at 3 other properties for other agents. And right away I had one that said, no problem, can't wait. And I had another one, why am I involved? Why are we doing this? And I wanted to show them that, hey, look, and we really like the agents that called us. We went out to look. I told them jokingly, I go, hey, look, it's right up 13th Street. And they go, 13th Street? I go, and immediately the one agent who is catching on now about addresses, go, how far up? I go, 5,400. And that agent goes, that's in Maryland. I'm not going. I go, no, it's at the DC Maryland line. Yeah. But if I had told you 1300 13th Street, he goes, I'd be right there in a minute. In the end, they came with me. It was good because they wanted to look at the property, but I think they were doing it for me. In the end, I wanted them to know I'm doing it for you.
Yeah.
I'm taking you out so you get to know about the properties ahead of time before other people do. This is great knowledge for you, right? And they're good price points, and we're helping other agents. When we go out there, in the end, that agent sent me a wonderful thank you. And what's good about all that is, one, we do get, I love what I do, number one. Two, I get to hear about properties I can tell my clients about. Three, I love taking our people out, our team members that have, get to learn about private exclusive coming up, get to find out about, get out of their realm of Logan and DuPont and get all the way up to, Brookland, all the way down to Navy Yard, look at Capitol Hill, expand your horizons, because you never know what phone call you're going to get. And then when we were driving back, we ended up getting a call from a developer who is not our developer, just developer talking about the market. I was in the car. We took the call for about a half hour, and then that agent said, all you did today was help other people all day long. How do you do it? And I go, well, to me, it is about helping others, right? I mean, real estate, if you love it, you're in it for the long haul. And you do want to help and share what your knowledge is to people. And we all like to find out, like, why isn't my property selling? If they call you and they want to go, hey, Max, hey, Brent, I've had this house on for a month. I take the call. I talk with them about it, because I will be the one that has a property on for a month that hasn't moved either. So again, we kind of share ideas, and I think it does really help. And in the end, it has really helped Rob and Brent, because I've had other agents that have forwarded their clients that they couldn't help to Rob and Brent, the team, and we have helped them, and we're continuing getting referrals from them. So you never know what will happen down the road when you go out and help a fellow agent, because in the end, they will respect you and they will call you and they will give you updated knowledge that nobody else has about upcoming properties too. So that's really been helpful. Actually, Brent, we just closed a deal on New Jersey Avenue from an agent from Compass that did that to us, called us ahead of time, told us what was going on, told us when it was coming on. We waited that day, we showed it, and now we're under contract. That's how it should work.
If you spend enough time in the business, wherever you do real estate business, you're going to probably hopefully meet all of the important players in whatever jurisdiction or locations you're working in. So to go out of your way, whether you do it a lot, sounds like, but even like, to make specific time to do those kinds of things during the week, it goes a long, long way to making sure that you have all of the knowledge you need to get the best new information for your buyers or sellers. You got to do all that kind of stuff, and you are obviously clearly well adept at that. So thank you.
It's impressive. I mean, the other component to that is, in a competitive market, because he's so helpful with agents across the aisle, again, other firms, if you're in a multiple offer situation, yes, the seller makes the decision, but if you're representing the buyer, and Rob has helped you so much in the past on different projects, it could, catapult you to the first place with the agent. Like, hey, this
Definitely.
agent is amazing, even though the offer might be slightly below. But I've seen it help his
yeah.
clients as well, and up front as well.
I think a lot of the agents we've talked to on our podcast are in that kind of realm, because of how personable and personal they are. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Is like how to be that kind of realtor.
Well,
right?
and I guess that's true. We're on a platform where you're getting agents to come out here and share. They do it on the podcast, but to see it in real time,
Right.
like some of these agents, they don't always want to share, but they will in certain platforms. Like Rob is always sharing across the board. I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah,
I
thank
can't
you.
do it. I mean, I could do it a little bit, but not like Rob.
I think what's benefited me is actually, I've looked at a lot of the agents that we have interviewed, and all of them that we've interviewed, I've admired like over their career. I think about every one of them has like a tidbit that I've took from them. For example, I thought of Ann and Nate. I remember every time I would go show a property back in 06, 07, 08, they had a business card there. And I remember going back to Brent, I go,
Right.
I
Yeah.
cannot believe they've shown every property in Washington, D.C. I'm blown away by them. And really, and it would inspired me to want to kind of be like them, to go out there. And I thought I saw 5 properties that day. I'm sure Ann and Nate had been out and showed 10 that day, and then I go and I meet, my wonderful agent, Kira Epstein, that, is riding around in her little Mini Cooper with her original, the way our phone, what was it, the dial phone that we had, I forgot, a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
And she would roll through properties all day long, and just we became really good friends, and we have stuck really tight. And she's another agent that I think is amazing. Now she's continuing with a family, married with kids. Her business is rocketed. And it
Mhm.
just, I mean, my hat is off to her. And it's just many of the agents I've learned a lot of things that even after 18 years I still pick up from, tidbits from everybody. Even watching you, I've learned about. I'm not a big Instagram guy. I've followed a lot of your stuff now, and I've learned from that. There's just many things that I love to pick up, and I in turn share that with our people too. So it's great.
So, um, in case you're just joining us, we're talking to Rob Sanders. Rob is Brent's business partner at TTR Sotheby's International Realty. Um, Rob, we're talking about all these great things that you've been doing, and you're clearly in the flow of real estate. Like, that is who you are. What are some challenges that you find in your business, in the market? What are things that come up on a day-to-day basis?
So challenges for me is, again, I do get caught up in helping other people, and sometimes I'm neglecting my own business, right? So like I may have a lot of emails to get to, or a lot of calls to follow up to of our own clients, and then I have a tendency to not respond as quickly. And for me, quickly would be immediate. I love to respond immediate. So if I have to get back to them in a half hour, an hour, I feel like I'm kind of slipping, where other agents are like, I'll get back to them by the end of the day. To me, I came from a corporate world at Allstate Insurance Company for 20 years, and we were taught immediate service.
Mhm.
If that phone rang, you answered it. And I'm kind of like that still. But being out there and mentoring and helping others, and it does take a little bit on my time. But and then I've realized lately I've had a lot of we've had newer clients that Brent and I have added, and the clients have been very hard to deal with. There's no other word to say, but and I would say that Brent and I aren't used to this particular clientele that we have now, formed with a lot of people, higher dollar brackets, but very demanding, micromanaging, calling every minute. Other agents would get rid of them quickly. I think we have adapted uh, to how to, I guess, facilitate their style. But that's a big challenge, and him and I are constantly going. We 1 minute go, how did we get involved with this individual? But now I go back to, it's a challenge, and I want to learn from it, because their business is just as good as anybody else's, right? Their properties are great too. So we do want to help them out, and in the end, we will learn from it. Whether we do sell the property or we don't, or it's pulled from us, or we get fired by the client, or we fire the client, we will learn from it and move on. And that's been, that's a challenge lately.
Well, not to mention, I think that you guys have you're obviously turning enough volume. You've got the money to allocate resources and time to more challenging listings or higher dollar volume listings where you might have a demanding client who's asking you to advertise things and spend more money, et cetera, time and money. Um, but the biggest difference, I think, is really um, taking on that kind of business is always just about understanding that you are bringing value to those situations. You were asked for a reason. And yes, the experience of doing that isn't always about, maybe you don't get to sell the property. Maybe it's on for a year or 2 years. I mean, I've been on plenty of listings like that, but it's always the same thing with listings. It's the leverage that you get from having those listings. If you're getting the call where you're like, maybe this isn't in my wheelhouse. If it's location challenge, if it's like, this is definitely not a location we work in, that's a different story. But if it's somewhere where you can service, then you can always leverage that product.
Correct.
So that's huge.
Yeah,
Very
you
true.
get another buyer or another listing out of it. Exactly.
You're meeting a whole new like realm of people. If the listing is eye catching, there's media, all those great things.
That's
So,
true. And yesterday I went to an open house. I had my own open house, and I thought, I'm in an area that it's starting to cool down. And I thought, on my way heading there, was at 2 o'clock. I was in the car at 1:30, and I thought, you know what, this is going to be dead. There's going to be nobody there. There's no way to fluff it or make it, phenomenal. It will be dead when I get there. It was dead. I had 2 people that showed up. Of the 2 people, we talked for an hour each. It was great. I met 2 new people that live in the neighborhood. And out of that, I drove away and I smiled and I thought, wow, what a great day. Because I met 2 people that live in the neighborhood, a neighborhood that we farm, and they spent 1 hour with me, each of them. So I thought, fantastic day. So it's all in how you, but I knew
Absolutely.
going in there, I'd meet
Yeah.
2 people, that'd be it. Whereas before it'd be 20 or 30 people.
Right.
But, I still did the open, and yeah, it's for the seller. But in the end, it was kind of great that, I got to meet those 2 people and immediately asked their address and wrote it down.
I think that's a good segue for the next little topic here, but Rob has the gift of gab, right? I mean, you can go into Chick-fil-A, you can go into an open house or any meeting, but he can talk to anybody else. He can talk to the homeless man out in front of our office for like an hour about life in general. So, I mean, share with us like some of those successes, because it's a huge kudos to you, because that does parlay to other people that you're so open and friendly and you can talk to anybody about anything.
That is true. A lot of times when we go out to lunch, if we go as a group, I'll start out and I'll go in there, and next thing you know, I'm getting chastised by my own agents in the group because the waiters come over, the waiter that we've seen 1,000 times, and I'm with our group, maybe 4 or 5 agents at the time. I say, "Hey, how's your day? What's going on? How you been?" Like, we go into it. And then that agent, one particular agent on the team, will go, "Stop talking to these people because you're ruining our order." In other words, because they forget, everyone they don't have the old pen and paper anymore, right? They
Right,
just
right.
stand there, go, "How you want your Caesar? How do you, but I go, "How was your weekend? How was your day?" Blah, blah, blah. And they get kind of caught off guard. They go in to tell me their whole life story too. And we're chit chatting and all that. By then, the order comes back wrong. And I always go, "Hey, look, please relax. We're here. They don't want to be here. Okay, so we have to make their day a little bit better." But that does. I mean, I enjoy what I do, so I would say happy-go-lucky type. Happy-go-lucky is, as Brent said, I go out, I turn the door, turn the down the sidewalk of our office, and there is a homeless guy who's been there. He calls me by name. "What's up? How you been?" And we chit chat. I go, "How's your daughter been?" He's like, "She's good." We just continue. Other agents will walk on by, heading to lunch. They're already there. I'm still back with that guy.
That's me.
That's just,
You're like, can I get a lunch now?
Yeah.
well, the worst part is like by the time Brett will call me ahead of time, he goes, "Hey, your guy's out here. I told him you'd be out in 20 minutes." I go, "Oh, thank you." Like, so Brent's gone, and the guy, he goes, "He told your business partner told me you'd be here." I go, "I'm here. Here I am." But it's I enjoy meeting people, and it's great. And it's not always about business, right? You're just out walking the street, and you talk to people, and especially when you're out and people are waiting on you, it's kind of like, they don't want to be there. So you
Yeah.
do engage them, and you do start talking about it, and they will tell you about a property or their friend, or next thing you know, they're asking for a lender information and all that. But it's I'll never change. That's how I,
We're all just humans out here doing our thing,
right.
you know?
So true. Very true.
I mean, I've seen it play off, and again, going back to he knows every building in the city. His personality is so bubbly. He'll go into the front desk where I'm like, "Can I get the lockbox?" Boom, I'm going up to the unit. He'll sit there and have a 30-minute conversation with the front desk lady. But what happens is that lady remembers him. So when someone else comes down the elevator and says, "I'm thinking about selling, do you know an agent?" That front desk lady or man is going to call or say, "Rob Sanders is a great person. Here's his business card. He was here yesterday."
Yeah.
I've
That's
got,
been,
I share that experience too with some of the buildings that I've worked in. Um, so some people like you just get into that pattern with where you're talking to them and you enjoying each other, and they're working at the front desk. Their life all of a sudden, and
yeah.
you're gonna see them a lot,
Yeah.
right?
That's true. And a lot of times I do that in front of the other agents too, because I don't want them coming in their suits and their shirt and ties and acting like they're big and bad, walking past these people without and being dismissive without talking with them.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll look at what I do. And when I go in there, even if I haven't met this front desk person before, and I walk in, they're like, "How you been?" They don't know if they haven't talked to me before, right? And I go, "Hey, look, I'm trying to get into that unit." And they're like, "No problem. Here's the key." Like,
Right. Right.
if you're a wall at the front desk, they're not going to let you in. If you go in and you're very open and talk with them about how was your weekend, they will let you do what you need to do and move
Yeah.
on.
That's great real estate advice for anyone listening. get to know everyone in those buildings.
True, because they are the ones that, here's the one thing, they hold the cards and the keys to parking spaces. We all need parking, right? So you go to one of them, there's only 30 parking spaces in the entire building, there's 180 units. You go to the front desk and you tell them you have a new client moving in 2 months, you have to get a parking space. They will call you and tell you, we got one,
Yeah.
we got one.
Yeah.
They're all excited. That is how you end up helping your clients.
I have 2 more questions. First, what do you think is your biggest success in real estate? Like, why are you so successful?
So I think my number one thing is that I enjoy, I enjoy real estate and I enjoy meeting people. So the two is a perfect, match here, right? Where I get a new client. I'm really excited to meet them. Like I have a new one coming in from California. Can't wait to meet her. And then I already have 5 new properties that I haven't seen. I can't wait to take her in and give her the dialogue and show her and drive her around and tell her what's going on in each one. I mean, that has never changed from 2003 when I started with Jennifer till now, till today. It hasn't changed. Same passion, just probably more comfortable now.
Second question, if you had to go back to 2003, you had to do something different, what would you tell little Rob?
So little Rob, I would probably say, you know what, for as much as you loved your Allstate job, I would have left the Allstate job and went full time into real estate, because in the end, it would have allowed me much more success and would have freed you up, sir, because Brent was the main guy during the day when I had another job. So we probably could have been, even though I feel that him and I have, made really good roads in real estate now, we could have done that a lot earlier in 03 and 04 had I given up that job and not relied on Brent, 8 to 5 to tell me what's going on.
So I think everything works out for a reason, where for those, however long we've been together, 15 years or whatnot, that it allowed me to look at every avenue of real estate, whether it's like operation runner, marketing, listing coordinator, contract to close. Like I was forced to do every single position with no admins, and allowed us to kind of grow and then see from an eagle eye view what we need as a group to grow to where we are now. And we still have room to grow. So
Yeah.
That's true. It's funny that with our marketing and our admin people that are in the position now, I always go, because they go, well, we can't do this or in this amount of time. I don't mean to like brag on Brent with them, but I'll go, well, Brent was able to do it. He was able to do it. He entered the photos back then when he painstakingly had to enter every photo. Remember when we would do a home visit and every photo had to be entered? Brent would walk away with bloodshot eyes the whole day, but he was able to do it and still continue on and do what he needed to do. And that, that really helped us. And I kind of wish that I was able to go back and do what he did. So that way I was a little more comfortable when I was entering a new listing and learning and knowing how to operate from the home visit side and knowing marketing, et cetera, et cetera. But, there's the 2 of us, but we have one for obviously business, and we have me for a lot of show and tell. So,
Yep. Good team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob, thanks for coming back on the show
Thank
and offering all this great advice and the stories. Lots of excellent stuff. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. Now Brent has his infamous rapid fire questions.
We didn't have this back then.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay.
So you've lived in a ton of buildings here in Washington, D.C. What's been your most favorite home that you've owned in the last 20 years?
My favorite home had to have been 1700 Calorama Lofts. Huge terrace, 2 levels, 20-foot ceilings. Absolutely loved it.
Very nice.
And across from a Harris Teeter.
And across from the Harris Teeter.
Can't beat that.
And where Max used to live.
I lived down the
Delancey.
street. No, I owned in Delancey, but I lived down the street in another building. But I was Adams Morgan for
That's right.
years.
You did at the corner.
Yeah, the
well,
corner.
we came. Yeah.
But
Where
yeah,
you had infamous parties. I remember.
I was Adams Morgan guy for forever, and then one day I wasn't. I was like, I'm out.
Yep.
Now he's a Georgetown guy.
Yeah.
No, he's a Georgetown guy. Yeah.
What is your favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show right now is Selling Sunset.
Selling Sunset.
Absolutely love it. Phenomenal show. Real estate, cars, property, and
flashy editing.
Flashy editing.
Love that.
Great music too. Yeah.
So now that the movies are back, I've seen Maverick 4 times. Shout out to Tom Cruise. Who would play you in a movie?
Who would play me in a movie? I would think it would be, wow, he's old now, but I always thought the guy that would play me would be Brad Pitt or Robert Redford. Those were my two.
Ooh, Robert Redford's good.
Yeah.
But
He
a
is.
younger, it had to be
The younger
slightly
version.
younger.
So younger version of me would be
No, younger Robert Redford.
Younger
oh,
Robert.
younger Robert Redford. You're right. Yeah, Robert's
Well,
old.
how old
but
is he? He's like 80 some.
He's about 80. Yeah.
Yeah,
Him and Clint Eastwood are getting up there.
yeah,
Right.
a little up there.
Yeah.
This is a good one. Do you have a one-liner that you always say in the office?
Boy, I have a lot of one-liners. Let me think.
What's your go-to one-liner?
My go-to, I always go, not this again. Like that's my one-liner. And what we mean is, and it's kind of bad, but not really bad. If we watch an agent repost it over and over and over, like they couldn't sell it and they'll put it back on again, we always go, not this again. Like, and we look up,
In that voice too.
yeah, always. And now the other agents do it, right? Not this again. And they'll post it, and it'll be other agents in the firm too, right? We'll be like, come on. And then if it's a TTR agent, I'll go, come on, we need to be supportive. But if it's another one, I'm like, of course, Compass couldn't sell it. Let's get it to TTR and we'll sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Last question here. Do you have any markets going somewhat sideways? Any predictions for the rest of 22? Or maybe it's not in your eyes.
So for me, I mean, I've had a little bit of cooling, but I've seen a little bit of cooling, but I think instead of getting the 10 offers, we're only getting one offer right now. And I think, like for example, we just did 1330 New Hampshire Avenue on a Friday. Here we are under contract on Monday. Now granted, it's only 330,000, but
Even
still,
so.
even that, a new buyer starting out, 330 might as well be $1 million, right? We were all there at one time. Where when I rode on 1300 13th Street and was 219, that might as well have been $1 million to me. So I just think that we're good right now, and I think DC has always been a little bit, we're I guess we're what's the word I'm looking for? We're insulated. Yeah. So even in 2008 when the market was bad, we were insulated. They weren't getting 50 to 100,000 over, but we were getting what we paid for it.
But there are always outlier locations within our little micro market here.
Some markets.
That will take a little bit more of a dip than others, and that's usually the best entry point. There were so many great deals to be had in 09 and 2010, and the market was flat in some of these locations, and those locations took off again like crazy. So there are going to be opportunities out here similar over the next 6 months to a year. And I have buyers right now who are, but interest rates are higher, we're going to take a pause. It's like, really ask yourself about this. There's other products, first of all. There's other ways to get deals where we can buy things down. I don't need to tell you guys this. I'm just speaking because it's like I'm getting these calls now. And you're going to miss an opportunity. There's going to be opportunities. And if you say, I'm out of the market and I'll wait for rates to come down, how many other people are going to say that?
And then the prices go back up.
The prices will go back up because of the affordability.
I'm glad you brought that up because me being a buyer recently, a month ago, I went and talked to the lender, and back in March, it was 3.5. When I went and talked to my lender to buy this property, he told me, you're going to be at 5.5. I'm like, no, I'm not. So I go, I need a new product. And he goes, arms are back. And I go, I'm an arm guy. Give it to me. 4% arm for 7 years. Took me right back where I needed to be. I won't be in that condo longer than 3 years. So the ARM product was great for me, and then I do tell that to buyers. Stop quoting me a 5.5 or 6.5 fixed. Put me back to an ARM where the ARMs have went away because we went so low at 3.25 fixed. We didn't need an ARM. ARMs are back, and ARMs are great.
For when I first started buying and selling real estate, when I started in the business, 2001 and forward, until I bought my last house in 2016, every product I ever used was either an interest only or an ARM product, because you want your cash to flow, right?
Correct.
So the 30-year rates were okay in some of those periods, but the ARMs were better.
Correct.
So simple.
Good.
Yep.
Do you hear that, buyers? ARMs are back.
Buyers, are you listening?
Yeah, ARMs are back.
ARMs
Stop
are
calling up going, oh, we're going to put it on hold, and we're going to go rent and pay $7,000 a month.
Rents are up too, if you haven't
noticed. Rents
noticed.
are way up. $800 I've been hearing they just jumped for a lot of my clients. So no tax break there.
Rob, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Last question here.
Okay.
We started donating to charities. So do you have a charity of your favorite that you want us to give some money to?
St. Jude's.
St. Jude's.
Love St. Jude's. They're 100% of the money that goes to St. Jude's goes to take care of sick kids. There is no admin fees, nothing like that. I've been a supporter of St. Jude's for 20 years. So definitely if we could help out St. Jude's, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Done and done.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. All righty. Was I more relaxed then finally?
Yeah, it was great. You were great. Great energy.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.